Hi there, everybody. It's Joe, and welcome to Lunch and Learn Live for July the 13th, 2021. Do you remember when? I keep having these moments where I think, remember when like 2021 was the future and we were all going to be walking around in like spacesuits all of the time and all of that kind of stuff. Is that just me, or did like the future feel like a really long way away? And now we're here in the future, and I'm not wearing a spacesuit, and I feel like something's wrong, and my car doesn't fly yet. Ah, dearie me. These are the things, the important things that I think about. So, welcome to Lunch and Learn Live, my darlings. Hello, Louise. It's good to see you there. Who else is there with me today? Do say hello in the comment section as you arrive. Tell me where in the world you are and what's for lunch. I am in the Cotswolds and I just had a nice buckwheat penne with smoked salmon and spinach for lunch. Yum. It was nice. This is exciting. These are exciting times. Yay! Food coming back in. And I'm excited about today's session because we are going to talk about failure. We're going to talk about failure, inspired by our increasing number of graduating cohort from our current coaching certification. So at the moment, cohort 5 are finishing up their assessments. They're doing their online written assessment, finishing up submitting their recordings, and a bunch of them have already graduated. So you might be starting to see some people saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm a certified coach," and sharing that. And over the course of the journey of these ladies, they're not only having experience of failure and success, but they're also learning how to, what I'm most proud of them for is not just that they've become great coaches and they're going to be able to help so many people, which is amazing, but that they've also transformed their own relationship to failure and success as they kind of, get feedback and they integrate that and they go on. And there was a particularly vulnerable post from one of the cohort that was shared in the closed Facebook group of our certified coaches that really touched me and many of the team actually as we read it. And we thought, that's a really common experience of we might share when we succeed at something, but we don't like to really talk about when we're failing. And many of us have a real kind of challenging or difficult relationship with failure or not achieving perfection right from the get-go. So that's what we're going to have a bit of a chat about today. How does that sound, ladies? Give me a little thumbs up, a little bit of love, a little bit of a yes in the comments if that feels good. Let's say hello. Hello, Valerie. Good to see you. Hi, Patricia. Hi, April. Good to see you, darling. And Victoria is there. Hello. Patricia is still in Berlin and lunch was an hour ago. 3 sandwiches with cheese, peanut butter, and some vegetarian meat. Oh, I hope not all at the same time. I hope it was a cheese one, a peanut butter one, and vegetarian meat one, Patricia, because that would be weird if they were all in the same sandwich. That kind of feels weird to me. Louise is hailing from a grey Cambridgeshire and had fish pie reheat, the joys of home working. Oh yes to the fish pie reheat. We live on leftovers. My pasta was a reheat from last night, so I'm with you, sister. I'm with you. Awesome. Valerie says that today is just the subject she needs. Hooray! Very good. We're talking failure today, ladies, and our relationship with perfectionism. Oh, thank goodness. Patricia has just qualified for us that it wasn't on the same sandwich. That's reassuring. That might have been somewhat distressing for me, I think. I would have just been worried about peanut butter, cheese, and vegetarian meat sandwiches for most of it and unable to focus on the topic of today's discussion. But now that we've cleared that up, we can continue. Nicole is in Melbourne. She's having midnight snacks because lunch was a long, long time ago there. Welcome, Nicole. Good to see you, darling. Nicola is saying epic fail, lunch out the window. What, you cooked your lunch and you burned it and now it's gone out the window, or that you're not going to have lunch today? What is that? So, yeah, here we are, ladies, talking failure. As I said a little earlier, if you've just joined us, at the moment we've got cohort 5 of our coaching certification. Our certified coaches are starting to graduate. They are doing their final assessments, and there's been some really lovely shares in the Facebook community as they not only become amazing coaches and grow in their confidence and their ability to help people, but also as they navigate their own relationship to growth, to perfectionism, to failure and success. One of the things that the coaches have to do is submit recordings of their coaching for assessment over the course of their practical assessment. And, a bunch of them nailed it first time. They did great and they got some great feedback. And a bunch of them failed one or sometimes even two of those recordings and have had to go back and dig in and practice their skills and resubmit. And for a lot of us, especially when we're adults, we stop kind of learning, and therefore we stop allowing ourselves permission to fail, right? We become real perfectionists. I'm interested to know, for those of you who are here with me on the line, what is your relationship with with failure? Like, are you happily vulnerable? Are you happy to kind of risk and maybe come up short in an attempt to grow, or does it leave you feeling awkward, vulnerable, difficult? I know it's something that I've had to navigate hugely over the years, because shame is a feeling I hate feeling. And I got to tell you, I've had a shame storm in recent times. The amount of places I felt like I've been failing is out of control. So it's something that I'm personally looking at as well. So yeah, that's it's an interesting kind of collection of things to be looking at, right? But as I think about failure, and I was preparing for today, I was thinking about the weekend. So on Sunday afternoon, I got a message from my little WhatsApp group of all of my friends that I made on Necker Island when I was there a couple of years ago. Because I don't know if you saw it in the news, but Richard Branson has had his Virgin flight, his Virgin Galactic flight, where he took his first group of commercial guests, if you like, to space, and he was, one of those four on the weekend. And I was really excited to see it because he spoke a lot about Virgin Galactic when I was on Necker, and a lot of the challenges that they've had. On the one hand, we see this weekend as a big success. It went off without a hitch, except for we couldn't get the broadcast from inside the rocket when they were floating around in zero gravity, but the recordings came through afterwards. So we didn't get to hear his words in space. But other than that, it went off without a hitch. They had a big party there. Some of my friends were at the party at Spaceport America, watching Khalid they had playing, and hearing all the speeches and getting doused with the champagne and stuff. It was a moment of huge success, but it was a moment of huge success which is built upon literally tens of thousands of failures, one of which was quite catastrophic when one of the test pilots, the vehicle came down in the desert, and one of their test pilots was killed, which was absolutely devastating, a massive failure. And then here we are on the weekend, we see this massive success, and it's met with people saying, "Oh my goodness, he's amazing, Virgin's amazing." And it started as an imagining in his mind, inspired by the moon landing back in the day. He wanted to make space available to everybody, which is kind of what he's on path to doing. So in some cases, a huge success, which has attracted a lot of positivity from lots of the community, but also a lot of negativity too, right? You can't have success without somebody thinking that what you're setting out to achieve is wrong or what have you. So it's just part of it. And without failure along the way. And then on Sunday night, I didn't watch the game. I feel ashamed to admit it. I'm not a big soccer follower. I'm not even a small soccer follower. I call it soccer, not football. So that should give you a sense. But I do care that England was in their first final for 50 something years, right? I nearly watched it, but then when push came to shove, I forgot and hung out with my husband and we talked. We forgot. We had planned to do it, but we forgot about it. And I mean, England was doing so great, right, with this amazing collaborative team effort. And as I understand it, it was just a beautiful team that and beautiful management and stuff that have done some really good work to get this far in the Euros. And it came down to those penalty shootouts, and then a failure. Oh God, poor old, was it Marcus Rashford? Is that his name? I think that's his name. Who shot for the goal, and bang, it all came crashing down. A failure, one might say. But here's this young man, I don't know how old he is, maybe is he 23 or so, who in the height of the pandemic was trying to campaign for lunches, school lunches for kids who were not who were not going to school and so on. So we've got this other example of, very public failure in that case, which was then met with awful racism and awful vitriol on on social media and so on, which is incredible. But as I look at that, and I look at my own experience over the last couple of months, and I look at the vulnerability of our coaches graduating right now, I think it shows us that you cannot have success without failure. Branson couldn't do what he'd done without failure along the way. The English team, we'll say the Italian team, they couldn't have had that success without failure along the way. And indeed, the English team are going to develop in a direction from here as well. So these moments, certainly those players will take something away from those moments, even if it's learning to be okay with, especially if it's learning to be okay with being, with not succeeding and so on. Do you know what I mean? So it's a critical piece to be aware of, that we need to transform our relationship with success, because we have this assumption that we need to succeed all the time, and that if we don't, that there's somehow something wrong with us. But actually, failing, not achieving an outcome that we set for ourselves is actually a critical part of success. Yeah? Let's see what you ladies are saying about this. Please do share with me your relationship to failure, your relationship to success, your relationship to perfectionism, and how you cope when, you metaphorically miss the penalty kick, or you metaphorically, have a rocket crash and burn in the desert. How do you feel about that? Are you okay with it? Are you not okay with it? Some lovely shares here. So Patricia says, I'm not happy to fail, but I try to see it as a learning opportunity. It took me a long time to get that far. Yeah, Patricia, I think I'm in the same boat as you. Intellectually, I can see that failure is necessary to success, but I have to work my compassion muscle very hard when I fail. When I fail, and usually it's a failure of, maybe I fail a team member, or I fail a client, or I fail, I fail a friend. I have to work that proactively work that compassion muscle to be forgiving of myself in the first instance, especially if they don't forgive, right? Sometimes the person that you fail won't forgive you, and that's really hard. That's really super hard. But you've got to start with forgiving oneself and having that compassion, and it's a very active pursuit, so I can relate to that. Nicola says failure or crisis is the best lesson and opportunity for growth and personal development. That said, it's still uncomfortable, but learning to be uncomfortable with the discomfort. Yes, that's exactly it. Sarah is saying, absolutely love Elizabeth Day's How to Fail podcast and book. Really useful to hear other stories of failure. That's a great recommendation, Sarah. I'll check that out. I like it. Louise says, I'm happy to fail, yet I do expect high standards of myself. I have a pretty thick skin as I see every piece of feedback as a lesson, but I am quite needy in terms of positive feedback. I need to know I'm on the right path and that people are coming along with me. Yeah, got it. Yeah. Yes. Alison saying failure to access this lunch and learn made me angry. Oh, I'm so sorry. A little right pointing case for you, darling. Irina says I have failure intolerance. That I can relate to. When I was at drama school was when I discovered that I had this, because up until drama school I had never put myself in a situation where I wasn't 100% sure that I would succeed. Right the way through school, I was intelligent enough to get really good marks. I would audition for plays, knowing that I would always get a part because I was as a good actor. I was a decent enough sportswoman, and sports wasn't that important to me. So when I missed out on the first hockey team, I was slightly disappointed, but not that pissed off because it was a priority thing for me. I wouldn't go to training twice a week. I'd only do it once a week because I was doing my musicals as well. So I never really, and then even through university, I never took on anything that I didn't think I could achieve. It wasn't until I auditioned for drama school and got in that every day up on the floor, I was at a level now where I was consistently uncomfortable and had to transform my relationship to failing, to be able to take risks on the floor, to be able to, take character risks, to be able to, try things out. And you try things out and they flop, and you're standing in front of a group of people who are judging you, not consciously, but unconsciously. Your classmates go, yeah, that's not working, or sometimes they're out and out laughing at you because you fail so dramatically. So it wasn't until I got to drama school that I realized I had this aversion to shame, a bit like you, Irina, having failure intolerance. Totally. I was totally like that. I was an absolute perfectionist, and it came out the most for me at drama school, which was huge. Ros says, I've always been terrified of failure. I never used to do anything that I could fail. And yet now I'm excited to give things a go. That's what life's about. That's it. Yeah. And Ros says, one thing that's made the difference is having a good circle of friends to pick you up. Makes a huge difference. Absolutely. Absolutely. Lynn says, I used to feel so much shame and guilt for failing, avoided situations where I might fail. Now I see everything I do as a success because I did it. I'm okay with doing it again if necessary. I like that. I like that. Yes, Iona says, when I failed my driving test at 18, it was devastating. I'd never failed anything before. Now I'm a mum. I'm trying to teach my child about the value of both successes and failure, though we both still find it really hard. This is it, right? This is really it. It's a challenging kind of situation for us, this whole thing around failure. So it sounds to me like all of us intellectually know that failure is a stepping stone. Well, I actually, it's almost like it's not a stepping stone to success. I think if we start to think about failures as stepping stones to success, it kind of has inherent in that success is the outcome, right? That we just have to, that success is the only outcome. Sometimes when we're trying to get good at something, that is certainly the case. If you want to become a great penalty scorer, you've got to kick a hell of a lot of practice penalties, right? You've just got to be able to do it. And the more you do it, and then the more you do it in front of, a big crowd, and the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So I bet for those boys in the penalty shootout, this is going to be an awesome opportunity for them to deal not necessarily with their who am I? I've got no freaking idea about their actual form in terms of their kicks and things. I mean, God, damn sight better than anything I can do. But maybe it's going to be a great opportunity for them to sit with, wow, that was a huge disappointment, carrying all of that on. And hopefully for the bloody community to recognize that you can't be so fucking harsh on people. But as you look at this, there are some things like that where you have failures along the way and you're going to get better at something. You look at a kid learning how to walk, they fall over 1,000,000 times before they do that wobbly, funny walk to be able to get there. But I prefer to think about failure and success as just two outcomes, because the older I get, the more I discover that there are some things in life that I'm just not going to succeed at. And there are some failures that I will have that can't be recovered from, that they're not going to be perfect, that I'm not actually going to be able to, fix that thing or move on from it. It just is like Yes, we're always on a journey of growth and evolution, and I hope that every individual, as individuals, we can learn from every failure that we have. But for me, it's kind of like I think we need to dig into why we feel so much shame about failure when it's just one of the outcomes, right? It could have been a success, it could have been a failure. You may say something to someone one time and really really hurt them. Yes, it will be a learning for you to become a better person, but for that relationship, you know what, it might be the end of that relationship. They might not be able to forgive you for that, right? Which you can learn from, yes, and your journey will continue. But in the context of that relationship isn't going to have success anymore. And maybe you've got to learn to be okay with that. So there's this piece here, I think that the piece to kind of dig in around is about this expectation that we are perfect and that we can get everything right all of the time. We're human beings, we're human beings. And as human beings, we are flawed. And sometimes we do things, we say things, we try things, and they don't work, or in sometimes not just don't work, but they're actually wrong, right? How many of you, as you think about it, have actually done things that you wouldn't necessarily think of them as a failure, but they were actually wrong, where you were out of alignment with your core values, you did something that you're not proud of, you did something that hurt somebody. You might not call it a failure per se. It wasn't that you were going for something and you failed. It was that you did something you're really not proud of. It's the same thing, right? We've got to be able to kind of look into this and go, whew, find that compassion for ourselves, that sometimes we get wins and sometimes we get losses, but we want to be able to work towards getting to a modicum of what's the word, of neutrality with all of it. When Branson flies to space and there's, massive champagne party and there's, superstars playing there and it's all over the media and everyone's like, whoa, you're amazing. And it was interesting for me, the coverage, how it was Richard Branson doing it all. I'm like, pretty sure it wasn't just Branson. Just between you, me, and the gatepost. I think it was his vision. Don't get me wrong. He had the imagination, but that was a vision that was shared by many, and it was the many that brought that to fruition. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So anyway, where we have this massive celebration of success, right? We do this massive celebration of success, which means when we don't succeed, how do we be with it? Right? How do we be with that? How do we be with not succeeding? How do we be with failing? So there's a great analogy which was in a book I read recently. Which book was that? It was it Eckhart Tolle's book, A New World or A Whole New World or something like that? I can't remember. Anyway, it's an old what's the word? I Ching, what's that called? It's not Confucianism. What's the other Chinese philosophy? The Way, Tao. It's an old Taoist tale about, and I'm going to be totally paraphrasing because I can't remember the whole thing, but it's along the lines of, a man, comes into some fabulous success. So he a king falls in love with the man's daughter and asks her to be his wife, let's say. And the man everyone's like, oh, congratulations. And the man says, we'll see, right? And then the wife marries the king, but she can't have a child. And everyone around the man is saying, oh, how terrible for your poor daughter. How terrible for you that they can't have a child. And the man says, we'll see. And then I don't know, I can't remember any of the story. I'm totally making this up. The king dies and the girl comes back home to live with her father again. And everyone says, oh, yay, your daughter's back home to live with you again. And the man says, oh, we'll see. The point being that he's developed this non-attachment to success and failure because everything is contextual, right? Everything is Everything is, in the context of other things that are going on at the time. And there is no objectively great thing and no objectively bad thing if you can pull focus back enough and kind of put it into a context. And you just never know. So I think, we want to be careful as we're looking at these failures that we experience or ways that we think we fail ourselves or we don't live up to our inner sense of perfectionism. It's our humanness. But if we can let go, it's not just letting go, I think, of attachment to the shame or letting go of the shame around failing. I feel like we also have to release our hold on attachment to the success. Not to say we can't celebrate when things go well, but I noticed this for a long time, as a leader inside an organization. Whenever we would do a launch of a program or something and we would achieve our targets, I would massively celebrate and it'd be great. And then sometimes you have a launch and you don't achieve your targets. And then I'm like, well, here's the things that we can celebrate. We did some other great things, but the team would be like, oh, because I would celebrate so much when we'd have a success, and when we wouldn't, I would find it tougher to celebrate. So we just kind of I've just generally been moving away from that attachment-based celebration, away from results-focused celebration, and just to celebrating the wins and learnings that we kind of get along the way, which has kind of made a real difference, I think. So it's really challenging. Yeah. Nicholas says, it kills me when I cross my moral compass or go against my universal wisdom that comes from my gut, my belly button. Yes, got it. Yeah. Yes. Joe says, I've been struggling to let go of past mistakes or even lack of perfection. Aiming for progress, not perfection, is my new mantra. That podcast led me to the slow-mo one, which you would also recommend. Ah, great, Joe. That's great. Yeah, this is it. Victoria says, in the context of debt, I look back at that time and have to take responsibility for the decisions we made as a couple at the time. It taught me a tough lesson about finances, but I don't see it as a failure because I can't go back and change that. But equally, I learned a hell of a lot. This is it, right? So there's a few pieces that we've talked about here, I think. Number one is recognizing your relationship to failure. You might not even call it failure, or maybe you do. But maybe when something doesn't go the way you want to, you feel this kind of shame or discomfort, or that you should have done better. That I should have done better comes from a worldview that we're only worthy when we succeed, right? It comes from the worldview that our worthiness comes from success. So therefore, if we fail, we feel ashamed and uncomfortable. We shouldn't feel ashamed and uncomfortable when we fail, because we should still be landing on a cushion of I'm worthy. We could feel disappointment, we could feel like we went for something but we missed out on it, like those sorts of things. But where it's triggering real awkwardness, shame, discomfort, you're still sitting in a worldview of, if I'm not succeeding, I'm not worthy enough. Right? I'm not worthy. So just be aware of that. Have a look at that. And, if you're in one of our programs, if you identify that, then perhaps doing a power type release process to work on that deeper level stuff is going to make a real difference. For me, it's recognizing that failure and success are two sides of the one coin. It's not like, one's a stepping stone to the other. Yes, that is true. And, Colonel Sanders and Edison and all of those talk about you just keep trying, and then eventually you succeed. But you know what? There's some people in life who keep trying, and they keep trying for a really, really long time. And will they eventually succeed? I don't know. So for me, it feels more human to be able to find a game you want to play without attachment. And to be able to recognize that if we don't achieve an outcome, that's one outcome. And if we do achieve an outcome, that's another outcome. But we're playing the game of whatever the thing is because it's a game worth playing, a game that we choose to play, whether it's a game of work, life, business, relationship, whatever it is. How's this landing for you, ladies? I'm interested to know what it is you're taking away from this as we kind of as we're cooking and looking. Erica says fail, first attempt in learning. Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Absolutely. Absolutely. The other piece I want to kind of put in here is context. And I said about context, right now we are expecting success of ourselves in a context through which most of us have never lived before. We're expecting success of ourselves after over a year of higher level executive functioning than we've ever had to collectively as a species operate from. What I mean by that is it's during lockdown it takes 18 steps to get yourself to the supermarket, where under normal circumstances it's just, let's go to the super. We used to just go to the supermarket. Remember that? Even now, we've got to go to the supermarket. We might have to wait until the traffic light is green. You've got to wipe down your trolley, wipe down your hands. Remember, have I got my mask? So just there, you've got like 7, 8 extra steps to something as simple as going to the supermarket. So that's just that piece. And if you look at every area of your life where that has happened, home working, juggling, childcare and work, isolation, doing this without physical hugs, without your yoga classes that used to make you feel good, or being able to meet up with your aunts or your cousins or your grandparents or whatever it might be. All of these things have changed. And I think we are still expecting success of ourselves. And so we're even being harder as we're in this kind of, trying to get back to some kind of normal. We are in the UK. I think about Australia, and it's getting worse there in Sydney, and I'm sure Melbourne won't be too far behind before things happen again with the winter on the horizon. But I think we've got to give ourselves a little bit more acknowledgement for just how challenging the last 18 months has been. And we've got to be kinder to ourselves about what we expect of ourselves. Do you know? I think this is really, really critical. Yeah. Nicola says, yes, it's great with severe and enduring mental illness that's cyclic. All plans have to wait until compassion ups. Compassion ups. Lack of patience was my worst vice, but I'm learning, Maria Tucker. That's great. I guess Maria is your coach, Nicola. That's fantastic. Patricia says, my takeaway is compassion to yourself. I think that's it. Compassion is like the central resource. If there was only one blessing that I would give every person in the world and say, this is it, it would be compassion. Compassion for oneself and compassion for others. I think everything can come out of that, Kate is saying, my takeaway is that shame and discomfort is okay. That's where growth can happen. What's not okay is carrying the shame and discomfort and it defining you going forward. Yes, absolutely. Okay, great. Alison says, I feel really proud that I've kept going in the face of lockdown and major disruption at work. Now major financial crisis at work on top. Well done, Alison. I got my love for sending that with you. And Nicola says, context is very important. I struggle more with failure when it's something closer to the core of my identity. Yeah, that's a really good point too, actually, Nicola, and something that we should, Nicole, and something that we should pay some credence to is it's totally fine if you fail at something that's not important to you. Like I said, when I was at school, not making it to the first hockey team, I was disappointed. I was disappointed, but it wasn't at the core of my identity. More important things like failing as a mother, right? Core and central to my identity, and seeing places where I fail as a mother, it really hurts, right? It really hits. It's all very well to go after something that's not important and fail at it, but when we truly discover that which is our calling and our purpose, it's a hell of a lot harder to work with. But the gifts and the benefits are strong if we can develop that level of non-attachment. Yay! Yes, Valerie says compassion is the key for me. Ladies, I hope that this has been a useful little chat for you. If you feel like you've got a pretty good relationship with failure and success, and you know that you'd like to help others to do it, you've still got time to apply to become a certified coach with us in our next cohort. Applications are open at the moment, and we are offering early bird discounts until the end of this week, I believe. Is it the end of this week? I think it's the end of this week. So if you go to oneofmany.co.uk/coach, you can see all of the details there. And we are having a lot of very fruitful conversations over the next over this period of time as we get cohort 7 of our coaching certification together. So if these are the sorts of conversations you'd love to be having with other people, you can see yourself as a coach, or you're already a manager and you want to do that, do come and participate with us. Just have a no obligation call with one of our coaching team, and they'll help you to see how being a coach with us, using our methodologies and our training, might be able to support you in your journey forward. I would love to have you on board if that's something that's of interest to you. So it's oneofmany.co.uk/coach, where you can find out all of the details about that. All right, my darlings, it's been lovely spending some time with you today. I look forward to seeing you next week on Lunch and Learn Live. Don't forget, in the B1 community on Fridays at lunchtime is Trainers Corner. So that happens inside the closed group in Trainers Corner, where you meet Sarah, Stephanie, Annie, Susie, Natalie, the training team, on fabulous topics as wide ranging from corporate to small business to relationships to mindfulness, you name it, they cover it in there. So do come and join us there as well. All right, my darlings, have a fabulous week. I'll see you again soon.